How's it going, everybody? As the show continues on now this morning, I'm Jeff Slakey, and I'm happy to have a great conversation for you now about the Mason County Host Program. Kim Rinehardt here with me in studio. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. Very good.
Well, thanks for reaching out to Rod to get a conversation going about the Host Program. It's about 12 years old. You've been there for about 10 years. They're online, mason-co-host.org. I'll put the links in the show notes here so you can click right to it. For those who aren't familiar, tell us a little bit about the Host Program.
The Host Program was born out of a need for kids experiencing houselessness here in Mason County, and it's always kind of been a need. But there's also always been sort of amazing folks around here who have hosted kids but not had a word for it. But that's in a county that has so much poverty that can be a drain. And so there's some great folks around here who joined forces with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Rotary and just a lot of good citizens around here, and created this idea based on a Minnesota idea of hosting kids experiencing houselessness by creating a relationship between them and a community member that had a spare room. And that's kind of how the idea was born. And then when I came here, I had run a business successfully, so I kind of did more of a business model on it and then combined it with that to try to make it sustainable. That's ultimately if you create something like that, you want it sustainable to the community long after you're gone. So that was the point.
And your offices are in the Choice High School building.
On the second floor.
It's not just Shelton specific. This is a Mason County program.
This is a Mason County program. We serve kids all over all ends of Mason County, and then we have kids placed outside the county in Thurston County as well that come in for school.
How many kids are involved with the program, and what have the numbers looked like in your time?
I think the first year we graduated like 5 kids, Now typically we're graduating every year 20 plus kids. In the time of COVID, the Department of Education has laxed some of the requirements for graduation because COVID is a great strain on youth.
Oh, yeah.
There's no question about this. And so in one way, I'm a proponent of that a little bit. In another way, I think I'd like to see a study in 10 years after this to see the impact of the kids that were graduated without the level of requirement and what their level of struggle is systemically, whether it's working, reliance on systems, things like that, because those are the things that I'm trying to break. So I think that relaxing some of those standards may actually increase some of that. This is just my guess as a social worker. So it was really born out of like trying to create a real home atmosphere so kids can just go to school and get through that after experiencing poverty and neglect and all the things that lead to essentially a young person being without a home.
How are these youth identified to be part of this program? Over the years, talking with folks, I know that there's a real hesitancy sometimes to open up to strangers and talk about your backstory.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you need to know whether or not these folks are a good fit for the program.
Yeah, so we get referrals from a lot of different sources, from within the school district, from me walking into Safeway buying groceries for a student, and they'll say, hey, I have this kid, or there's a kid working here, and, this is coming. And we get calls, referrals from mental health counselors, from if kids are coming here with their families and their families are in trouble. They'll call and say, I might not be able to care for my teenager, and we're on the way. I mean, they really come from everywhere now.
Wow.
Initially, it basically came from the school district, but now they just come from everywhere. And I'm working with several other different programs, so I don't mind them coming from everywhere because we can draw resources from all the programs to try to deal with all the issues. Before, it was just basically us, and there still is basically us doing what we do, but there are pieces of things that get supplied by other agencies that can help solve the problem. So we get referrals from everywhere.
Who is us? Tell me about
us.
You, your coworkers, your board, however the whole caboodle.
I'm going to start with the board because the board is the epicenter of everything. They make everything gets run by them. They make the decisions. They are a collection of Mason County folks. So Peter Jones, who is a district attorney over at for Mason County, he is my board president. My treasurer is Nancy Kistner. She works at Vanderwagen. and is old school and member of Rotary and really one of my muses, honestly, because she's a historian of the program and she minds the dollars obsessively, and I love this about her. So Nancy Jendayet, who used to be the principal at Shelton High School, she's on my board. Judy Ogden, who has done both court work with folks dealing with mental health issues and drug issues. She is also on my board. We always have a student there, or a former student. We do right now. Malia Larson, who used to work for Rob Wilson Haas and now works for another paralegal in Olympia, but resides here and owns a home in Mason County now. She is on my board. And we're recruiting right now for more board members because it's the epicenter of what we do. Like, without that support, I don't feel held up, and the kids don't feel held up. So we're recruiting right now for more board members. We like thoughtful folks that can think outside the box, that are not just idea people. I'm a passionate idea person, and at the core of it, if I don't run a good business, the business won't make it. So I like business-minded people as well, but I don't like it to the exclusion of human beings. So if that sounds like a good fit for you and somebody would want to participate, we would love that. My staff is my primary staff right now. She works for the school district in the building.
Okay.
So she works for me part-time and part-time for the school district, knows every kid that I work with. And that's been my ethos about hiring. I either hire graduates of the program itself, or I've hired people that work within the school district or mental health here so that there's no bumps in the roads for the kids themselves. We have a mental health therapist on staff who actually lives in Tacoma and works for CPS up there also, and is just the most wonderful addition. She grew up in foster care. She's a supervisor up there. She understands the issues of all these kids and the systemic issues, and she offers almost immediate mental health support for the students in our program.
Wow.
So,
wow. I just want to mention the website again so people can go and read more about your mission statement and then contact you if they need to. mason-co-host.org. You've mentioned a few graduates already. And in your time in the last 10 years, before we started this, we were talking, and you are deeply involved with all of these youth, one-to-one on this stuff. Give me some more of these success stories.
Some anecdotal.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll mention Malia again, who's on our board. You know, Malia, I think when I got her, she had been in almost like 11 different homes, and there was some family background to that. But Malia always deeply loved her family, but knew that they weren't at the time capable of caring for her, so was trying to find a spot. Straight A kid, grinding it out, good community member, just needed a break, you know. And Malia has gone on to graduate, and she just had a child, and bought a house with her partner here in Mason County, and runs an art business on the side as well. So that's one story. I have another student that came up here from Arizona, and was a gangbanger, and not a good steward of goodwill, but got here and gave himself a brand new shot, and this kid went on to run track and play basketball up at Shelton High School, graduated with straight A's, was in college at Wazoo and then left, and now is in the military, and is, I think, found the girl he's going to marry. I was supposed to meet her at Christmas time, but the snow stopped me.
Oh, no.
We were so mad. He wanted me to co-sign this deal, right?
Oh, my gosh.
But he still calls me on Messenger from Germany all the time, and, you know, like, these are the kinds of relationships that we have. And he did a lot of press for the program with me. Another student of mine that I'm getting ready to hire, when I got him, was fresh out of rehab and had been in jail and in lots of trouble, and ended up here and graduated and has gone on to, you know, rebuild relationships, and he has his daughter now, and, you know, these are not uncommon stories. I have so many that, like, I just could tell them for hours in your studio.
Wow.
So the truth about kids that experience houselessness is that they just aren't what happened to them. They're really magical unicorns, and if given the same things you and I have, will most likely go do what you and I did. You know, they'll go find success. They'll go have families. They'll return back to the communities they love.
What are some of the ways community members can help? You mentioned maybe hosting, also volunteer or board opportunities, donations, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But let's talk about how the greater community can help you.
The greater community can help me by you know, gaining a better understanding of kids experiencing houselessness. So a lot of folks think that these kids are just kids that choose to be on the street. A lot of these folks think that their kids, oftentimes around here, the first question I get is, "Oh, are all your kids Mexican or kids of color or Guatemalan?" No, almost entirely they're Caucasian kids, right? That have grown up in poverty, and a lot of other mess. And so, like, really deepening and understanding that nobody chooses this. This is something that gets put on an innocent at some point in a variety of different ways. And so, everything begins with, like, thoughts. And if you assume the worst intent about a child, you might find that. And if you assume that there's no worst intent, that they just want what you wanted when you were a kid, then that begins with the help that I really need to try to, like, end the problem. I really would love the community to educate themselves a little deeper about some of the sources of youth homelessness. And then, I am a person that engages deeply in conversations like this, right? So if anytime someone wants to call me and have a conversation like this so we can figure out how they would fit the best given their life and what the needs of the program, I'm always open to this because I only want folks to show up and volunteer in the ways that they can do that. And not overshoot, or they won't be involved in the program long term.
Right.
So I know that sounds like a really esoteric answer, but it's the beginning of ending the problem is a conversation. And so we don't have enough conversations about any of these issues that are human issues that end up costing both the person who's experiencing it and the community. And so, and this is always one of my great issues with community leaders is that if we're not having a conversation so we understand the problem, if we're just talking about the problem won't end. So, that's what I would say is, like, the more as a community we can engage as a community, the higher the chances we're going to eliminate this problem. But if we just respond to it like go to foster care, go on youth at risk, go over to Shelton Youth Connection and get 3 months worth of rent. And then after that, it may be, and they do the best that they can to fill all these holes that I don't fill and I don't claim to fill. But it's an impossible task, right? Because it's chipping away at reaction. It's not chipping away at origin of the problem, So we need more mental health services. This community needs about 40 times the amount of mental health services that it has available to it.
Wow.
Both for adults and children. So we do not have enough of it in this community. It's talking about it openly is a dirty little secret, but it's not. Everybody has mental health stuff in their life. Some people end up mentally ill, but everybody has mental health stuff in their life. And folks don't like you to say that out loud, but these are facts. It's the truth. It's the reason why it's one of our main industries. It's more available ever now in COVID because you can telehealth with someone in Australia if you want to, if you have your resources set up, So we need much more mental health support around here for adults and children to make better decisions.
How have the youth pushed you forward over these last 10 years and pushed kind of what the program does? We were talking about how before how we as we get older, we get perhaps more stuck in our ways. Where the youth that come in, they're ready to shake things up a bit.
They shake everything up. They demand change. They demanded change of me. I again, like as I was saying earlier, I fit in. I check a lot of boxes. I'm half white, half black, and queer, and all these other things. A woman, and the way that they push me is like I even though I experience those things, even I get older and I'm about to be 55, right? So I think about things in a certain way and have had a lot of success in my life. But they come in, like Shelton has a large trans population amongst youth at high school age and younger. That's one of the things nobody's really talking about, but it is a fact, and the kids are demanding services around it. And you can deny it because of the way you think or how you feel about it all you want, and they're still going to ask for what they need. And so my thing is to not just automatically say no if I don't believe something myself personally. My thing is to say, let's look at all sides of it. Like, if you think this is you, let's explore that, and like with your parents and the people in your life that support you and a mental health counselor, let's try to figure this all out and see if this is really this or is this like you needing help in some other way, and if that is you, I'm good with that. I'm 100% supportive of that, But if it's not, I want you to be able to decide who you are, without like someone gripping you around the neck so that you can't even have a personal expression. I think we all forget that we came up as teenagers and had personal expression. And these kids need the right to personal expression through trauma. This is a heavily traumatized community. Nobody wants to talk about that either. Whether it's financially traumatized or the reduction in workforce or whatever it is, this community has trauma. It's one of the richest things about it is that it survives trauma, right? And as somebody who is black, I relate to that. Like I've survived trauma, right? So I relate to people around here surviving their situations and raising their community up. And it's the same thing for youth. Youth have a lot of trauma, and they're trying to survive it too. So we have to acknowledge that and be able to sort of walk alongside that for a second so that they can come back and build homes and work here and do all the things that we expect of them, right? Like there has to be a base of experiences for any kid that's experienced trauma to get beyond that, or they just become a statistic around here. So that's really a large part of what I try to do is just say, let's try to figure out how you walk alongside your trauma and how you learn to live with it and then live with it in a positive way so that you're not putting it on your community or engaging in behaviors that reduce your options. But all these things are not housing. They're not education. They're human issues. And youth homelessness is a public health crisis in Mason County. Period. So,
this has been a eye-opening conversation. I really appreciate you coming and reaching out and talking about this.
Yeah.
The Mason County Host Program offices are again in the Choice High School building.
Mm-hmm.
The website is mason-co-host.org. I think there's something that all of us can do to help this program and help the youth move forward. You just have to look within yourself to figure out what that is. Thanks for coming by.
I appreciate the opportunity so much, and I just want to sort of say as the way on the way out the door is that the things that I raised today are heavy things, but this community is surrounded with heavy trauma, right? And the most beautiful thing about it is that they come together and beat it year after year and make the community better, And so here what I'm saying in that context is that I'm about education and reducing houselessness. I'm also about the truth of how we got there so that we don't have to do it generationally over and over again. I'd like people to work me out of a job, right? I'd like us to be so smart about this that I don't have a job here anymore, that I can just roll around and talk to folks for fun. That's the goal. Work me out of a job, folks.
Wow, there's the challenge.
There's the challenge.
The gauntlet's been thrown by Kim
Yeah.
Rinehardt from Mason County Host. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.